Here in India, the rumour mills are buzzing. There is talk of one nation, one election. What does that mean? It means all elections would be held simultaneously. The general election, the state assembly elections, even the local elections, all of them will be held together. That's one nation, one election. In fact, after independence, this is how elections were done in India, all at once. But in the 1950s and 60s, the cycle broke. Some state governments were dismissed by the centre, others were dissolved before their tenure. As a result, the timing got jumbled. But the current government of Prime Minister Modi wants to change this. It wants one nation, one election. The ruling party, which is the BJP, had promised this in 2014 and then again in 2019. The Prime Minister too has endorsed this idea multiple times, but it never really took off. Not until this week. The government has now created a special committee. It will be headed by India's former President, Ram Nath Kovind. What will this committee do? Reports say it will hold talks with multiple stakeholders. I'm assuming that means political parties and election officials. It will then prepare a report and submit it to Parliament. The government says the plan is not immediate. The report will be debated by lawmakers. The question is, when will this debate happen? Interestingly, the government has also called for a special session of Parliament to be held between September 18th and 22nd. Rumour is one nation, one election could be on the agenda. The government has not confirmed this. So right now it is all speculation. But if not in September, then the report will be submitted one day. And whenever it is, we need to be prepared. Because this is a very important issue. Elections are the most integral part of any democracy, and how those elections are held is equally important. So should the current system stay, or should all elections be clubbed together? Let me list out the pros and cons. First, the pros. It would save a lot of money for sure. The 2019 general election cost around 60,000 crore rupees. The same year, 7 state elections were also held. Some in April, some in October, and then some in November. Had we clubbed all of them together, we could have saved money. Same with security forces and poll officials. Right now, you need to mobilize them multiple times. But if all elections are held together, that will not be necessary. The burden would be less. The third pro is increased focus on governance. You campaign once in 5 years and that's it. The rest of the time you work, ideally. But right now you're almost always campaigning. Chief ministers fly down to their states during elections. Same with the Prime Minister and his cabinet. It's like the country is always in election mode. With one nation, one election, you can correct that. And number 4, more voter turnout. Suppose you work in Delhi, but your vote is in Mumbai. You may not be able to fly down for every election. But if it's all at once, there's a higher chance that you can. Now, these are the 4 advantages. Now, the disadvantages. Number 1, regional issues may get ignored. Let's face it, general elections tend to attract more attention than state elections. So what will happen if they're all held together? National issues may end up dominating regional ones. In India, that could be a problem. We have dozens of regional parties. Number 2, the logistics. Simultaneous elections would require more EVMs, electronic voting machines. Former poll officials say almost 3 times more. Challenge number 3, educating the people. The last time India held simultaneous elections was in the 1960s, so an entire generation is not even familiar with the idea. How do you educate them? How do you explain why they're voting twice or thrice? Or that one vote is for the centre, the other is for the state? It could get complicated. And finally, challenge number 4, some legal confusions. What happens if an assembly is dissolved prematurely or a government loses its majority? Will it be president's rule for the remaining time? Again, we need clarity on this. Having said that, there are countries which already hold simultaneous elections, like Belgium, Sweden, Brazil, and South Africa, and to some extent, even the United States of America. Their presidential elections coincide with elections to the US House. Does that mean India should also do it? Well, it's tough to say. Belgium and Sweden follow a different system. We follow first past the post. They follow proportional representation. Here in India, the candidate with the highest number of votes wins. It's as simple as that. That's not how proportional representation works. If a party wins 30% of the vote, they get 30% of the seats, hence proportional. Over in the US, there are only 2 major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. Here in India, 6 national parties, 54 state parties, more than 2,000 unrecognized ones. So copy-paste may not work. We need an Indian version of simultaneous elections. Most political parties agree that it's necessary. What they disagree on is how it should be done. But honestly, there is only one way: through consensus.